funding for Lemonada and Tortoise, and some crooked acquisitions. The latest from our daily newsletter at podnews.net. Podcast network Lemonada Media has raised $8 million in funding to hire more diverse talent and staff. Meanwhile, Tortoise, a slow news company in the UK, has completed a $13 million funding round and plans more podcasts. Crooked Media has acquired 2 podcasts, Critical Frequency's Hot Take and the indie podcast Strict Security. Terms weren't disclosed. Facebook is not the place to promote your podcast, and nor's Twitter either, according to Hala Taha from the Yap Media Network. She was speaking to the Podland podcast.
Facebook really is a dying breed, and I think Facebook ads work well, but Facebook posts, I don't think you're going to have much traction, and I wouldn't focus there.
You can hear the full interview by searching your podcast app for Podland. Spotting an opportunity, US satellite radio broadcaster SiriusXM has announced a Neil Young channel. Spotify removed Neil Young's music after the musician objected to Joe Rogan's views. Writing for Recode, Peter Kafka points out that no other music artist is following Young's lead. And in The Verge, Ashley Carman writes that Joe Rogan is the linchpin of Spotify's podcasting apparatus. Advertising on the show is only available as part of a network buy across all of Spotify's podcasts. LAist Studios has unveiled its 2022 podcast slate. Promoli has unveiled a new promotional tool for podcasts where you can email your contacts, get feedback, and even see if they've played it. It's a new service from a platform used by musicians. There are many different grants for creators, so Danielle Desir has launched a paid newsletter to help you find them across the US. Her most recent newsletter contains grants totaling $106,500, although some of them are state-dependent. Target Spot's owner Audio Valley posted a 48% growth in revenue for 2021. On Monday, the podcast host launched something to do with NFTs, but responses to its announcement weren't pretty. In a statement on Twitter, the company has promised to do more research. We link to some of those responses today in our show notes and our newsletter. Serial is back, sort of. Serial Productions, now owned by the New York Times, has announced a new show from S-Town's Brian Reed and journalist Hamza Syed. The show, called The Trojan Horse Affair, will be released in full on February the 3rd. The Podcasting Seriously Awards Fund has a new fund partner, and it's Podnews' ad tech newsletter, Sounds Profitable. The fund covers admission fees for independent and early career BIPOC, queer and trans producers for their work to be considered for awards and competitions. Podcast training program The Kasama Collective has been nominated as a finalist for the 2022 Social Impact Awards. Another podcast has made it to TV. Recode and Vox Media's Land of the Giants has been snapped up by CNN+. The show will be available on CNN's streaming service at launch. And good news if you download subscription reports from Apple Podcasts. The company has updated the format to zip files and made them easier to read. And in People News, Jenny Baird has been hired as EVP and MD of Digital News and Streaming for BBC Studios and will also assume responsibility for the BBC's recently launched documentary and podcast services, BBC Select and BBC Podcasts. Phew, she joins from News Corp in New York. And Nicole Beamsterboer is to leave NPR and join Gimlet as head of news and knowledge, according to Hot Pod Insider. In podcast news, Shagged, Married, Annoyed has renewed with Acast with a multi-year extension. The show boasts 150 episodes, a record-breaking live arena tour, selling out London's O2 Arena and Wembley SSE Arena, whatever that is, in London alone, a Sunday Times #1 best-selling book, and an upcoming BBC television show. And meet Cute's new talk show podcast, The Rom-Com Room, features rom-com connoisseurs Kendra Okereke and Mercedes Gonzalez-Bazan, who unite each Friday to nerd out about their favourites, their love to hate, and every crush and rom-com in between. It's new today. And now some statements about Spotify Open Access. We noticed yesterday that despite Acast being promoted as a launch partner for Spotify Open Access in July last year, their new Acast Plus product doesn't support it. Acast says Acast Plus will work on all podcast listening platforms that give their users the ability to add any RSS feeds of their choice, which means that a few podcast players like Spotify are currently excluded because they work differently. However, they go on, we are part of their OAP program, that's Spotify Open Access, and we are continuing to work with them on their approach to how they manage subscriptions to ensure that the end product meets what's best for Acast creators and the open ecosystem, which is for podcasters to have direct relationships with their listeners. They go on, Acast Plus works on the majority of podcast apps and players, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Casts, and CastBox, and is available to access for 80% of our listeners. Spotify says, as shared in the announcement in July, we're activating those partners on a rolling basis. To mention just a few that have already been announced as live since July, we've rolled out Supercast, Slate Plus, Pushkin Industries and Mamma Mia. We have no new specifics to share right now, but expect to hear more from us in the near future. Might be a threat. And Jennifer Tribe, Supercast's head of marketing, has spotted a marketing opportunity. She says, I'd like to note that Supercast was also on the Open Access launch partner list, and we have rolled out our integration. At this point, we're the only subscription platform offering it to all our podcasts. Perhaps we should add Spotify Open Access to our list of things announced by Spotify that haven't actually launched yet. And that's the latest from our newsletter. For all the links, we're at podnews.net.